Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Danielle, aka Stitcherista here on YouTube, and today is a stitch with me while I continue working on Modern Folk Embroidery's Fruits of Plenty 2021 sampler. The newest part just came out on September 1st, and it was in my spam folder because we got back from vacation yesterday and I was looking at emails and I'm like, where is the part for September? In my spam folder. Not in my spam folder anymore. So today is Tuesday, September 7th. Today is actually my wedding anniversary to Bill. We will have been married. Well, we will. We have been married for 8 years today. And yeah, we're both off work today, which is nice. We had a great vacation. It just seemed to go by so quick. If you have not checked out our vacation video, please do so. I do have clips all put together in a video on my channel that I put up yesterday. So there will be a true crime story time today, as always, another unsolved or unexplained case. But I am going to chat for a few minutes. So a bunch of you had commented and said, oh, I missed your chatting at the beginning. Well, if I wouldn't have pre-recorded all of those videos last week, you guys would not have had a video for like 4 days. So it was necessary. But yeah, we are back to our regularly scheduled programming where I record every single day. So we got back yesterday about 11 a.m. And holy hell, I had forgotten what it's like to be on vacation and then come home. You know, I'm the kind of person that when I come home, I have to unpack laundry. I had a bunch of work stuff to catch up on. I had video stuff to do. I literally, when we got home at 11 a.m., it took me until about 4:30 p.m. To get everything done. And I was exhausted. Ooh, I was so glad that that I also had off today. I have the arbitration the rest of the week, and then next week we have it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So yeah. So we caught up on TV last night too. We caught up on Big Brother. We watched an entire week's worth of Big Brother last night. And we are having a good steak dinner and potatoes for our anniversary. And he has a dentist appointment today at 2:30, so he's doing that. So I'm up here trying to get this video recorded for you guys. I got up in the morning and had, again, work stuff to do. And then we went and we got my wedding rings cleaned and inspected. We try to do that every 3 months. I had to go to the post office and check my P.O. box because I received a gift. And then we went to the grocery store and picked up a couple things, and then we just headed back and had some lunch. So I did finish a book on vacation. It is called In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. Very good. It is told in like the past and the present, so you have to kind of, keep that straight, but it's not hard to keep it straight. It's about this group of college kids, and one of them gets murdered when they're in college, and the book fast forwards 10 years to a reunion, and then you finally figure out what really happened when that person got murdered. Very, very good. And I started reading Riley Sager's newest book called Survive the Night. I have it in hardcover. And I saved that for the beach because it's really hard to read on my iPad on the beach with the glare and stuff. So this one is about a college student named Charlie is quitting college and she needs a ride home. And there's like this bulletin board at the school where you can post an ad that you need a ride. So she accepts a ride from this guy who she suspects is a serial killer once she gets in the car, and they start going. I'm only a little ways through it. I am on page, what's the page number? I'm on page 73, so a little ways into it, and it's pretty good. I love all of his stuff, and Yeah, it's so very good. And he's already leaked the title of his new book that is coming out next June of 2022. I've read every single one of his books. My favorite of his was Final Girls. Perfect book. I love that book so much. Okay. So besides that, not much else going on, just trying to get back into the swing of things, and getting back to work and regular life and stitching, because I have not stitched in over a week. Tomorrow's video will probably be a diamond paint with me, because I also haven't diamond painted in over a week. I did literally nothing last week craft-wise at all, because I had pre-recorded all of those videos the previous week. So yeah, I got to figure it out, because the arbitration is starting at like 9:30 a.m., 10 a.m. my time. So I have to get up really early to be able to do this video and to be able to fit in the crafting, because by the time the work day is done, I'm exhausted and there's no crafting happening. No, not at all. The new season of American Horror Story started. Have you guys been watching that? Holy friggin' moly. It's good. I like it. And I have the newest episode to watch, which I might try to do that tonight. And then I also have the newest episode of 9 Perfect Strangers. That's another good show on Hulu. I read the book by Leanne Moriarty. So both of those shows I need to catch up on. I watch those and I don't do anything else, because you got to pay attention. You know what I mean? Okay. So today's story is called Fire of Unknown Origin. Mary Reeser was a woman of regular habits. The 67-year-old widow rose each day at 6 a.m., did morning chores while listening to the radio, and ate her breakfast at 8. She would then await the arrival of her son, Dr. Richard Reeser, who invariably showed up at 10 for his morning cup of coffee. After Dr. Reeser departed, Mary would leave to do some shopping or run chores, often for her son. She was seldom home later than 4 p.m. She would then take a nap before her son returned to pick her up for dinner, which she always ate at his house. She would be home by 8 and listening to the radio until it was time for her to go to bed. So this was Mary's routine and had been ever since she moved into apartment number 1 of the Olamanda building at 1200 Cherry Street in St. Petersburg, Florida. The upscale residence had 5 units, but when the story takes place in July of 1951, Mary was the only tenant. That may be a part of the story we need to remember, right? The only other person living there at the time was the building manager, Pansy Carpenter. Can you imagine your name being Pansy? No, I don't think so. Before arriving in the Sunshine State, Mary had lived in Columbia, Pennsylvania. She moved to Florida after the death of her husband a few years prior. Wait a minute. Let me pause 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Had to deal with something for work. Okay, so Sundays usually followed a more flexible template to the weekday routine of Mary's life. On July 1st, 1951, she arrived home later than usual at 4:30 p.m. and seemed upset. About an hour later, her daughter-in-law dropped by and visited for a short while. Around 8 p.m., Dr. Reeser showed up. He, too, stayed only a few minutes. These comings and goings, taken in conjunction with Mary's demeanor, led Pansy, the landlord, to believe that there might have been some family disagreement. Still, it wasn't her business, and she wasn't in the habit of prying. When she saw Mary later that evening and Mary admitted to being upset, she didn't ask why. Mary then said that she had taken 2 Seconal tablets and was going to bed. It was the last time that Pansy would see her tenant alive. At around 5 a.m. on Monday, July 2nd, Pansy was woken up by a dull thud that she thought might be the sound of a door closing. She got up and went to investigate, walking out into the courtyard. Seeing nothing, she was about to return to her apartment when she caught a whiff of smoke. This she assumed to be coming from an electric pump in the garage, which had recently been playing up. She went in and turned it off before returning to bed. She was up again within the hour, going about her morning chores. Usually she would hear the faint strains of Mary's radio when she went out to pick up the morning paper, but today there was only silence. Perhaps Mary was sleeping off the Seconal she had taken. That's what Pansy was thinking. But there was still no sign of life from Mary's apartment by the time a Western Union clerk arrived with a delivery at 8 a.m. He said that he had a telegram for Mary and asked Pansy which apartment she was in. Pansy said that she would deliver the telegraph herself and took it from the boy. She had to drop off the morning paper anyway. Pansy noticed nothing out of the ordinary as she approached. There was a screen door fronting the unit, and she reached out to grab its handle. Immediately, she withdrew her hand because the handle was blazing hot. Uncomfortably so, like really, really hot. And that was when Pansy remembered the smoke she had detected earlier that morning. So her brain did a quick calculation, and factoring in the smell, the lack of activity from Mary's place, and the hot door handle, Pansy's like, oh my God, I bet her apartment is on fire. So Pansy wasn't going to open the door, not with what may lie within. Instead, she ran from the apartment building and attracted the attention of two men who were painting a building across the street. After explaining the situation and asking the men for their help, she dashed back inside and got on the phone to the fire department. Then she dialed the number of Mary's son, Dr. Reeser. While all of this was going on, the painters had eased open the door to Mary's smoke-filled apartment. The first of the men peered inside and reported that he could see through to the bedroom and that there was no one in the bed, although it appeared to have been slept in. This man refused to enter the apartment, although his companion did, walking through to the bedroom and back again before he noticed the singed easy chair. Then he spotted something on the floor and realized to his horror that it was the lower part of a human leg, still clad in a black slipper. Ooh. The man left the apartment in a hurry, and from a distance came the sound of approaching sirens. The firefighters who responded to this call had never seen anything quite like the spectacle that they found inside the apartment. The residence was smoke-filled, but almost untouched by flame. What? The only item that did sustain fire damage was the chair Mary had been sitting in. Even then, the damage was not what it should have been, given the intensity at which the fire must have burned. It takes a heat source of over 3,000 degrees burning for several hours to destroy a human body, and Mary had indeed been destroyed. All that remained of her was her skull, a section of her spine, and the shin and foot of her right leg. So that makes you wonder, like, okay, if she was burned that badly, why wasn't her whole apartment, like, burnt up, right? Isn't that weird? And yet the fact that Mary had been so utterly destroyed by the fire was only half of the riddle. The other half was the condition of the apartment, which was mostly intact. I'm not a fire expert by any stretch of the imagination, but that just sounds so bizarre, right? The chair had been burned, but the rug that it sat on had only been charred, and that only in the area that was under the chair. The plastic covers of the electrical outlets were slightly melted, but all of the sockets still worked. Mary's electric clock was stopped at 4:20, but when it was plugged into a different outlet, it started right up again. A pile of newspapers sitting in the corner behind the chair had sustained not even the slightest charring. The paint on the walls was not blistered by the heat and was only slightly blackened by soot. How was this possible? Okay. This was the question that occupied Police Chief J.R. Reichert over the next 5 days. Several theories were offered, most of them quite bizarre. One of these held that Mary had been abducted, burned elsewhere, and then returned to her apartment. What? No. This was easily dismissed since Mary had quite obviously died in the chair, and it seemed unlikely that an abductor would have snatched the elderly matron along with an item of furniture. Yeah, that's too weird. Like, there's no way. Another suggestion, sent via an unsigned letter to the chief of detectives, completely wrong, they spelled chief wrong and everything, was adamant that Mary had been struck by ball lightning as she sat in her chair. The tipster stated, "A ball of fire came through the open window and hit her. I've seen it happen before." I guess that's possible, right? Wouldn't that be so bizarre, though? Another theory was that someone had drenched Mary's body in ether or alcohol and then struck a match. And this again was unlikely. The accelerants would have fed the blaze, not retarded it. None of these ideas passed muster, and eventually, after 5 days of musing, Chief Reichert reached out to the FBI for help. Yeah, I guess he would. On July 7th, 1951, the St. Petersburg Police Department shipped 14 pieces of evidence to the FBI laboratory for examination. These included bone fragments, 6 of Mary's teeth, fibers from Mary's nightgown, the springs and charred legs of the chair, and a section of the rug, heavily coated in some greasy substance. J. Edgar Hoover is reported to have taken a personal interest in the case. Really? In the end, the Bureau offered up a seemingly rational explanation, one that addressed most but not all of the unresolved questions. So, the FBI report was released on July 31st, 1951. It stated that no accelerants were found at the scene and that the death was probably accidental. The likeliest explanation is that Mary fell asleep in her chair while smoking a cigarette. Heavily doped on sleeping tablets, she failed to wake up when the dropped cigarette ignited her nightdress and was thus burned to death. Man, you had to really have been under the influence to not wake up being burned. The lack of widespread fire damage could be accounted for by the hypothesis that the fire smoldered rather than burned. This is the so-called wick effect, where the human body is turned into a kind of inside-out candle. The clothing and body fat act as the wick, creating enough heat to destroy the innards before disintegrating and collapsing inward. Ew. The person's body fat serves as the fuel supply, slowly, steadily maintaining the intense heat. Because the fire never flares up into flame, items in the immediate area are untouched or only slightly damaged. Wow. This explanation makes sense and is similar to that offered in other cases of spontaneous human combustion. Incredibly, there have been over 200 such cases recorded over the last 3 centuries, and most of them have similarities to Mary's case. The victims tend to be elderly females who might have consumed some inhibiting substance, usually alcohol. But second all in Mary's case, remember she took pills. The point of ignition is often determined to be an external source rather than being genuinely spontaneous, and the explanation of how this all happens is quite gruesome. The initial point of heat causes the skin to blister and split, and the fat then liquefies and seeps out, providing the fire with its slow-burning fuel. The body is literally cooked from the inside out. Jesus. Wow. So, is this what happened to Mary? Do you guys think that's what happened? Was a dropped cigarette the agent of her doom, or is hers a genuine case of spontaneous human combustion? Is such a phenomenon even possible? Yes, according to British chemist Dr. John Emsley. Emsley suggests that combustion could result from the overproduction of diphosphane. This, in turn, could ignite hydrogen and methane in the gut, triggering the slow-burning fire from within. The death of Michael Faraday, a 76-year-old resident of County Galway, Ireland, was attributed to this cause as recently as December 2010. Freaky. Like, that is completely, utterly freaky. That you could literally just spontaneously combust with the right circumstances. Be careful if you smoke inside your house, people. Don't take pills and do stuff like that, okay? Yeah, let's not. Let's not, right? So remember to look for something positive in each day, even if some days you have to look a little harder. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.